Hello, this is Professor Lieu here tonight to have a Q&A. We're going to talk about MFA programs, specifically how to prepare a portfolio to apply to an MFA program. And you know what? While we're at it, why don't we also talk a little bit about life after art school? Because I think that definitely ties into this topic of MFA portfolios. So if you guys have any thoughts, comments about that, please feel free to jump into the chat box and tell me what you guys are thinking, because I'm going to assume that anybody who is interested in a graduate degree in studio art is definitely somebody who is experiencing to some degree life after art school or life after college. I think all of those topics are definitely interrelated. Jump in that chat box, pick my brain, let me know what you guys want to know, because we do a lot of live Q&As here about how to apply for a BFA program and how to prepare a portfolio for that. But preparing a portfolio for an MFA program is almost entirely a totally different thing. In fact, when I think about it, the BFA portfolio versus the BFA portfolio is almost opposite ends of the spectrum. They could not be more different. What we try to emphasize with a BFA portfolio is diversity and try out different things. And I feel like with an MFA portfolio, what's more important actually is that cohesion in your voice. And we'll dig a lot deeper into that. If you guys have not heard, we are doing this awesome fall raffle, which closes tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you guys have not pledged for the raffle, I really suggest that you get on it because it's ending really, really soon. But the cool thing about this fall raffle is you only have to pledge $1 to enter this raffle. $1 equals 1 ticket. There is a limit of 5 tickets per person, but if you win, that could mean that you would get a portfolio critique from me within 2 business days. Normally, we would charge $200 for that, but if you win the raffle, you could get that for $1. Now, the other thing, super excited about this. I probably shouldn't be dropping art supplies all over my laptop, but this is the other prize. Jeez, this is heavy. Okay, it's a lot of art supplies. These are all art supplies. You guys can see a much prettier picture to the right of me, but we have so much cool stuff. This is a really big box of art supplies, so you can choose if you win the raffle between either the art supplies or the portfolio critique. And actually, if I come back here, I can show you guys, we also have prizes for 2 runner-ups. So if you are a runner-up, you get a pack with sketchbook, markers, you get a Faber-Castell water brush, and also, this is really sweet, you guys. You get these Faber-Castell Pitt pens, and these are so cool. Look at them. They come in all these different shapes. Again, here's the Faber-Castell water brush, really great if you're painting on the go. You also get these alcohol-based markers from Spectra, and these are really, really nice, these hardbound journals from Strathmore. So you really cannot lose, you guys. I mean, like, $1 is nothing. So pledge today, go to this link, and I hope that one of you guys will win. Oh, this is a bonus. Now, if we hit $1,000, I will do a video tutorial on anatomy and figure drawing starring Wolverine. I know, I don't know what I'm thinking. See, the thing about my staff is they have this ongoing joke that I come up with really stupid ideas and it's their job to talk me out of it. So I came up with this idea about this anatomy and figure drawing tutorial starring Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and normally I think they would have talked me out of that one because that is a pretty silly idea, but I don't think it's an accident that they did not talk me out of that. And so now I'm stuck because we've announced it, and I have now said if we hit 1K in the raffle, I will do that Hugh Jackman Wolverine tutorial. And I have to admit, I'm sort of like, I don't know if I want to do that. That's a little embarrassing. So part of me is like, well, I sort of hope we don't hit 1K, even though I really want us to hit 1K. So I have very mixed feelings about it. If you're just joining us, we are talking today about MFA portfolios, but I also think we should talk about life after art school, because I think most people who are applying for an MFA are to a certain degree dealing with life post-grad, because you do have to have an undergraduate degree to be qualified to apply for an MFA, which, by the way, if you guys don't know, an MFA is indeed the terminal degree for a studio art program in academia. There's no higher degree than that. There's no PhD version of that. A PhD really is for art history. So jump into the chat box. By the way, those of you guys who are watching, where are you from? Because I'm always so interested to hear all the different states and cities and countries. It's really quite amazing. I feel like maybe this is just me, but I feel like Art Prof has especially a really international audience. I mean, I got a submission to our live critiques the other day. If you guys haven't seen these before, they're live critiques that we do for free. And I got a submission from somebody in Iran. I was like, wow, that is incredible. I've never spoken to anybody in Iran before. So anyway, that's another thing you guys can submit to if you don't know about our free live critiques. Those are another great option. So tell me where you guys are from, because I'd love to hear what city, what country, what state. It's always so interesting to me. And if you missed it, fall raffle is going on. It closes tomorrow at 11:59. You don't have a lot of time to pledge. And $1 could get you all of these art supplies, or you could get a portfolio critique from me for $1, which is pretty sweet considering that normally we charge $200. So ask me your questions, you guys, because you know what? If you don't ask me your questions, I'm just going to tell you about all the awesome art supplies we have. And I did that, and I'm totally happy to do that again. But I kind of have a feeling that if you guys are here watching this stream, you probably want to ask me some questions, whether it deals with MFA portfolios or even just degrees and how all of that art career stuff works. Because one of the reasons I put together this page, Life After Art School, What's Next, is because I have a lot of former students. I have them as undergraduate students in college, and a lot of them keep in touch with me over social media. Inevitably, a lot of them call me up after school because they're very frustrated about what to do, or they don't know how to handle a specific professional situation. And I was thinking to myself, sheesh, if I'm like getting all these phone calls from people asking for help, there's got to be a larger population of people out there who really could use access to this content. So that's what I was hoping on this page, that we would provide for people different resources just so people have an understanding of how other people navigate life post-grad. And I do think for a lot of people that does involve this question of, well, should I get an MFA undergraduate degree? And actually, I was going over MFA programs because I'm teaching a senior seminar class this semester, which is very much about life and how to navigate it post-grad. And it was actually sort of surprising to me that a lot of them didn't really know the way that the system is set up and what to anticipate. So I feel that because I have gone through the whole system and I have done the undergrad and the MFA and I've taught college and everything, I have a better point of view on that. So please jump into the chat box, you guys. Let me know what you want to know about MFA degrees, BFA degrees, the whole spectrum of academia. It's a big world out there that I think oftentimes for a lot of art school students is very confusing. And so it's really nice, I think, to have somebody who can really explain it to you in more specific terms so that it's not too confusing. So hopefully you guys can take advantage of this page because I'm very excited that we have this. We're going to continue adding more and more content to this. So hopefully you guys will find this to be an engaging page, because I think that for a lot of artists post-grad, a lot of them feel very boxed in by their art school major. Like a lot of people will say, oh, well, I'm a painting major, and so therefore I can only work at an art gallery. Or I'm an animation major. The only option for me is to work at an animation studio. But the world is a bigger place. And I can tell you guys, when I did my MFA degree, I think initially my assumption, because at the time I was doing a lot of figurative oil painting, my assumption when I was thinking about applying for an MFA was, oh, well, I'll get my MFA in painting for sure. That's definitely what I'm going to do. And that's exactly what I thought about the whole time. But the thing is, I mean, the way things worked out, they didn't really work out actually the way I would have liked them to, but I applied to several painting programs and I applied to one sculpture program because I thought to myself, well, that's sort of interesting because sculpture is an area that I didn't really get to explore as an undergraduate, but I definitely had interest in it. And so that one grad program that I applied to in sculpture actually ended up being the school that accepted me. And so I ended up going there. And I always think that my degrees don't make a lot of sense to people because if you look at my BFA degree is in illustration. I am not an illustrator. Actually, that's not true. I think I did one illustration gig in my entire life, like one. And then I realized after that I was not cut out for that industry. I was not a good fit for that. But then my MFA degree is in sculpture. But the thing is, I don't really think about myself as a sculptor. Like, I have friends, artist colleagues, who are like sculptors, like hardcore. They are in a completely different universe. I mean, I use sculpture more as a means to an end. I don't think about sculpture as the final result. In fact, I have a whole bunch of these over here if you guys want to check out some of these fragments. I've been playing around a little bit over here with these. So these are basically these wax fragments that I've been making. And again, it's like, to me, these are just sort of these objects, but I don't really think about them as sculptures per se. I feel like they're sort of leftovers of my drawing experience. And so that's one of the reasons I don't really think about myself as a sculptor. But my MFA degree, because it was in sculpture, I mean, there wasn't a minute during my MFA degree that I wasn't learning something new. I mean, I learned how to cast, learned how to do silicone molds and waste molds, large-scale sculptures, all techniques that I had never done before. And to a certain degree, when I was an MFA student, I did very much feel that I was playing catch-up because actually a lot of people I went to school with in my MFA program had done their undergraduate degrees in sculpture. So I was like surrounded by all these sculpture majors and I just felt like I didn't know what to do. Lahona is saying, did anyone let Hugh Wolverine know about the contest? Yeah, well, Hugh is on tour right now because, I stalk him on Instagram. So I know where he is. I think he's, I don't know. I haven't checked my Instagram account that follows him, but we'll let him know. Let's do this, Lahona. Let's hit 1K first, and then we'll talk about that, because I actually have been thinking through my head, like, wow, I've actually never really worked with a model before that had that kind of physique. I mean, I think what was interesting is that, speaking on my MFA experience, when we were there, the nude models that posed for our classes, they had the most incredible physiques. Like, there were these two models we work with who were these dancers from Brazil, and they were extraordinary. But come on, nobody's like Wolverine. Lahona is saying, I think that sculpture helps painting. Yes, for sure. And actually, Lahona, you totally read my mind, because one of the reasons I thought about doing my MFA in sculpture, it actually was not my idea. It was, I talked to my former printmaking professor from my undergraduate program, and I was doing these figurative paintings. They were not good paintings, but he said to me, when I look at your paintings, I think about sculpture. And I just remember that really stuck in my mind, because looking back on it now, I think it's a lot easier to look at it objectively because I've had a lot of time and distance. But I think he was totally on the money because I'm not like a painterly painter. Like I have this one colleague at the school I teach at who is like a painter, and I am like so jealous of their brushwork because it's so painterly. Like I don't paint like that. Like I wish I did. I'm intensely jealous of anybody who can. But I do, I think, approach painting when I do paint from a more sculptural point of view. Lahona saying, I cannot work from photographs successfully. I need to see things from all angles, even though it is 2D. I totally agree with that. I think the thing is, once you have worked from life a lot, like more than you've worked from photos, it's really hard to go back. I feel like if you've worked from photos a lot and you haven't drawn from life very much, you probably don't have a very compelling reason to stop drawing from photos. But I think eventually you do really start to see the drawbacks. I mean, one of the reasons I started making these sculptures, actually, Lahona, you totally are like telepathic or something, but the reason I started making sculptures is because I was fed up with photo references, because I wanted to do these paintings that were of multiple figures. So I'd have a painting that was like 10 figures in a space. And so I'd look online and I would try to find images of people standing around in groups, and I'd try to work with it. But in the end, I just felt like I was banging my head up against the wall because I couldn't get the point of view I wanted. Like I would look at a figure and I'd be like, oh crap, I really want to see the other side. Or I'd look at another side and be like, oh no, what does that side look like? And so that's when I really did start thinking about, well, maybe I should just make sculptures as references for my paintings. And that was fabulous because I could take any point of view I wanted. I could light the sculptures any way I wanted. And it really was a way of creating my own reference photos. And so in that sense, I am really glad I did my MFA in sculpture, because if I hadn't, I would not have had the technical expertise necessary to do that. Because the thing about sculpture is that I think what makes it very challenging is it's extremely material driven. I mean, I don't think any field of visual arts is not material driven. But the thing about sculpture is if you don't know the right tools or the right materials, you cannot do it. It's similar to printmaking. Like in printmaking, if you process your lithostone the wrong way, you're not going to get an image. And same thing with a sculpture. If you don't, say, properly support it with like a strong enough armature, your piece can fall down. And I saw it happen. Trust me, when I was in my MFA program, there actually was this one person who was trying to do a waste mold, a plaster waste mold. And so they had this clay sculpture that was modeled from ceramic clay, and they were trying to make a plaster waste mold from it. But the thing is, they mixed their plaster wrong. And so the mold, which was made out of plaster, it was too weak. It didn't hold together. The plaster didn't fully set. And so they had to throw out the whole thing. Because the way waste mold works is you end up destroying the piece. But in theory, if you've made the mold, you don't need the piece. So things can go very wrong. Celia is saying, any book suggestions on color theory? I can't think of any right now, Celia, that I would personally recommend. I mean, I think the quintessential one that everybody talks about is it the Joseph Albers book? Let me just look it up. I can't remember what the title of the book is, but that's like considered the quintessential book on color theories. So let's see, Interaction of Color was published in 1963. Okay, so Celia, I'm going to put that into the chat box. So it's called Interaction of Color by Joseph Albers. I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time with that book before, so I don't know that I'm the best person to give you a lot of information about it, but that is like the book on color theory. I mean, if you guys want to know about my whole approach to color theory, my feeling about color theory is that people make it way too complicated. And there are some fundamentals that I do think can be extremely useful, but I also think that people get very hung up on technicalities, and that really gets in the way of trying to apply things in a way that's really applicable to what you might actually do in a painting. Because I think it's sort of similar to anatomy, where you can have lots of anatomical knowledge and know every single muscle inside out, but then not really know how to apply that into a drawing. And same thing with color. So actually, if you guys want a resource on color, this is a tutorial that we have on artprof.org where I demonstrate how to do a still life drawing with crayon. The beginning of the tutorial is all about how to set up a still life, but if you skip towards that and you don't want to watch that, you can watch my demonstration on color theory, and I do it by using still life items, because I think sometimes the way people talk about color theory is too abstract. And so I like actually holding objects and talking about color in that way. Mario Lau is saying, what kind of art critique in MFA will one get? Okay, I think that it's impossible to really classify what type of critique you're going to get. I mean, it really varies. It depends on the program. It depends on the professor. But I would say those of you who are curious about MFA programs, it's pretty much all critical engagement with your artwork. I know there's a few MFA programs where they do have technical instruction and you are taking classes, but I think more often the MFA program is about those critical dialogues that you're having. And I think a lot of it has to do with the relevance of your work within the contemporary art landscape. I think that there's a lot less talk about technique. For example, in the undergraduate program that I teach in, I do talk a lot about technique. We talk about, okay, well, are you going to mix your oil medium with linseed oil or Damar varnish? And so we get into a lot of the technicalities of that. I talk to students about what types of brushes they're using, what brands of paint. And so it does get very technical. And I feel like at the MFA level, people don't really dig so deep into that. I'm not saying that they don't talk about it. I'm just saying that it leans strongly towards the content and how the work you're doing is relevant to a contemporary audience. And they're very intense, I think, for a lot of people. The MFA atmosphere is different because I think that, first of all, the MFA program, it's only 2 years. So it's really short compared to a BFA program. And I think with a BFA program, because it is so long and because you start it when you're fairly young, I mean, that is sort of the typical experience, people are not, I think, as worried about like professional success right away. I mean, I can tell you over the years, I have discovered that a lot of undergraduate students are worrying about professional lives earlier and earlier. Because when I went to art school, nobody talked about that. Like, we just did not care until we graduated and we were like, oh, I guess we should get a job now. Like, people in art school now are saying to me as juniors, I'm so behind. Oh my God, I need to get a gig. I'm like, you're a junior in art school. Like, why do you think you should have had a professional gig by now? Like, that's really unfair to yourself. But definitely at the MFA level, I think there is this pressure that lingers over everybody. And I don't know. I mean, it could have been the school that I went to that people were just really competitive and seem really obsessed with like galleries and stuff like that. And I guess I was a little bit frustrated because I really went back to graduate school to like engage in my process and do the learning. And I don't know, maybe it was ignorant of me to think that I could do an MFA and not really get into the career stuff. But I guess I was still sort of in the mindset of the BFA program where I really wanted to just do the work. But at least the program I went to, I just felt like there was like a lot of fuss about like, oh, these artists who are coming in and galleries in New York and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. I found it a little bit tiresome, but it depends on your priorities. I mean, for me, showing in a gallery was never my number one priority. I know for some people it is. I just felt like for me, the difference between the BFA and the MFA program was, oh my God, it was so big. Like BFA, I just felt like I don't know, but again, it's like it could just have been the schools. That maybe the schools were very different. So anyway, if you guys are just joining us, jump into the chat box, pick my brain, and tell me where you guys are from. Nobody's told me where you're from yet. I'd love to know what countries people are listening from or cities. I always find that really interesting. And ask me your questions about the MFA degree, or if you guys want to know about life after art school and some of the challenges, because I think for a lot of people, when they are applying for an MFA, they are spending some time outside of school. So a lot of students, I think, are pretty aware that it's a good idea to take some time off between your BFA and your MFA program. I mean, I asked my seniors the other day, because I knew some of them were thinking about MFA programs, and I said, well, do you guys want to go right away? And they were all like, no. They were all like, no, we definitely want to take at least a year off, if not longer than that. Northwest coast of Canada, just south of the Alaska Panhandle. Oh, wow, that's really cool. Lahona, I love Canada. Canada's great. Well, I guess more specifically, I just love Vancouver. Like, I actually haven't been to a lot of Canada. I guess I've been to Montreal, but it wasn't for very long. But I definitely have spent a lot of time in Vancouver, and I just love it there. Like, people are so nice, and the food is so good. So I'm a big fan of Canada. Anyway, so yeah, I tell a lot of students, don't rush into getting an MFA degree. On the other hand, I don't think you should take forever. I think what I say to a lot of students, take like between 1 to 4 years. I think that's about right. I feel like if you are out of school for too long, it can be really hard to go back. And sometimes you sort of lose your motivation, or you get pulled in by other things, because that will happen. I mean, after school, sometimes you have these professional opportunities that you want to pursue, you get a little bit off track, and maybe you end up not doing the MFA. I mean, that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying that that's a problem. Maybe for some people, not doing an MFA is a great decision. It really varies. And a lot of people ask me, well, why would I want to do an MFA? And I think the one like super compelling reason for a lot of people is in order to teach college, because if you want to teach studio art at the college level, you have to have an MFA degree. You pretty much cannot get hired without that. I don't think that was the case like 40 years ago. I feel like a long time ago, like a lot of the teachers who I had in undergrad, I think a lot of them just like walked in and asked for a job. And that was sort of it. And now it's like, oh my gosh, this year-long process and search committees and campus visits, it's very, very involved. And so I think if you want to teach at the college level, for sure, do that. I know a lot of students, maybe they did not go to art school for their undergrad degree. Maybe they went to a liberal arts college and they feel like they want to really have some time to focus on their studio work. Because you can certainly be a studio art major at a liberal arts college, assuming that they offer that, but definitely you don't log the number of hours and intensive critique time that you would get at art school or at an MFA program. And actually, another thing that some of you guys might want to consider is something called a post-bac program. So actually, one of the art schools that I used to teach at, they had a post-bac program, and that's basically a one-year program, and it's in between BFA and MFA. And it's a really good bridge because, again, a lot of students, because they say went to a liberal arts college, they don't feel like they really have the focus or the experience to prepare an MFA portfolio. And so that is a really good option. I worked with some great post-bac students at this art school. I mean, they were fantastic. They were from all walks of life, and it was just really, really excellent. So that is one thing, actually, about MFA programs that I really enjoyed, was that the age range of the students in MFA programs is much, much broader, because most BFA programs, people are coming right out of high school. So your average undergrad student is usually like 17 to like 21 or 22 or so. But when I went to my MFA program, I mean, one of my friends was 40. I was like 26 at the time, and there were other people there who were like 21 because they had like just kind of undergrad. And that part of it was really great. So I really enjoyed that range of people. I mean, on top of that, I went to my MFA program in New York. And so, I mean, that on top of it, like you just meet people from everywhere if you live in New York City. I feel like living in New York City, in fact, it should be something you should try at some point if you want to work in visual arts. I mean, I don't really want to live in New York City now because it costs a fortune and because I have a family and we just could never afford to live there comfortably, at least. And so it's not where I want to live now, but I think that it is a good option. So pick my brain, you guys. Let me know what you want to know about MFA degrees, about BFA degrees, how that whole system works. If you guys want to pick my brain apart portfolios, you want to ask me about the raffle, because the raffle ends tomorrow night at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys are not going to want to miss out on this, because you know something? It's going to be one person is going to get the big thing, but we also have the runner-up prizes. Like, this is pretty cool. A runner-up is going to get this hardbound sketchbook from Strathmore, and these are sweet. These are spectrum markers. Let me put those a little closer so you guys can see these. These are like alcohol-based markers. Ooh, and I really like these Faber-Castell Pitt pens. These are really, really good quality pens. And then we also have Faber-Castell water brush. So 2 people are going to be runner-ups. So 3 people in our raffle, they're going to score big time. And you know something? We're not going to charge you for shipping either. These art supplies, they're just going to show up on your doorstep. Like, you don't have to do anything except pledge $1. You have to do that. But that's not a lot of effort, guys. So I might consider doing that. And remember, if you didn't hear this news, oh God, I can't believe that my staff did not talk me out of this, but I'm going to do a figure drawing and anatomy tutorial starring Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, because I like him. Just a little bit, just in case you guys wanted to know. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look at my Instagram stories, because yeah, I have a couple white male crushes. So anyway, go check that out if you guys don't know what I'm talking about. All right, well, you guys have a few more minutes to pick my brain about MFA portfolios, or if you'd like to talk to me about life after art school. If not, I'm going to sign off pretty soon, so just let me know if you guys have other questions, or if there's just a question in general. It does not have to necessarily be about MFAs, even though that's what the topic of today's live stream is, because there's a lot in terms of that topic for what to talk about. If you guys missed this, this is so many art supplies. It's so many art supplies that this is heavy. This hurts. This hurts my hands, guys. And then actually, oh, this doesn't fit, but this thing is really cool. This is a speedball set. And look at this. You get all these supplies in this one kit. So if you've never done rubber stamp or linoleum block printmaking, this is like a really nice, easy way to get started doing that. So anyway, guys, I'd like to encourage you again to pledge to our raffle. Ends tomorrow night. You can also win a free portfolio critique, or you can just buy one and get it for sure. That's the other way to get a portfolio critique. You can just go to this page. We have portfolio critiques, and actually we just started doing artist website critiques and Instagram critiques. So go to this page and check that out. Lahona is saying, I really appreciate your effort. I've learned so much. Enough to forge ahead with my art. Oh, that's great, Lahona. That's awesome. You know, that makes my day, because you know something? Actually, I was talking to Eloise Sherrod, who's one of the teaching artists at Art Prof, and we are compiling this list of tips for students who are postgrads coming out of art school. And I just love the way Eloise said this. She said, make something. Anything. And I thought that is the best advice, because so many people, they get so caught up that, oh no, I don't want to start because it's not going to be good, or oh, I got to be in the right mood, or I need to have inspiration. And it's like, I think making some artwork that is crappy is better than making nothing, because people psych themselves out. Like, I had this friend a long time ago who is an amazing artist. I really was like jealous of her drawing skills. She was so good. But her problem was that she couldn't organize how to like actually facilitate something happening. So she'd come up with all these like really complicated projects. She'd get really excited and like, talk to me about this. And I'm going to do this, this, and this. But the thing is, then when it came to actually starting that big complicated project, she'd get really overwhelmed and she never really knew where to start. So she could like envision the thing, but she didn't know how to like take the concrete steps to actually make it happen. And so, Lahona, I'm so happy that you are forging ahead because that's very, very exciting. And if you have stuff to show us, share it with us on Instagram. If you want to just tag us or something like that, I'm happy to take a look. Or if you want to submit to a live critique, we would love that as well. If you guys don't know about that, you can submit here and we will give you a free live critique on your artwork. You can submit 1 to 3 pieces, totally up to you. Sometimes we will split you up between several staff artists. Other times it's one person will critique all 3 pieces. It really varies quite a bit, but this is a great option, especially for those of you guys who are thinking about applying for MFA or BFA programs. I think the live art critique is a really good like test drive. So it's like, let's say you're not done with your portfolio critique, but you still want some feedback. Plus, this is free. You don't have to pay for it. The portfolio critiques, we do charge a fee, but the nice thing is that you can choose your staff artist. Like you can pick me, you can pick Jordan or Lauren, and everybody on our staff has a different range of specialty. So like Jordan specializes in concept art and digital art. Like if you guys want a critique on digital art, don't ask me because I'm not somebody who has a huge amount of expertise in that area. It's not to say that I won't critique digital art because I will. It's just Jordan can give you guys all the like inside tips and tricks, all the technical stuff. That is stuff I can't talk about. I can talk about the image and what I think it's doing, but I can't tell you what's the best tool in Photoshop to make something happen. So anyway, hope you guys pledge to the fall raffle. It ends tomorrow. Remember, free critique for $1 pledge or giant box of art supplies. Hope you guys will submit and I'll see you guys next time.